But first tonight, the crisis in our justice system. South Australia has among the longest delays in the country. Our buildings are falling apart and the sector is so under-resourced, some of our leading lawyers fear it's on the brink of collapse. And while the government insists it's working on a remedy, for many victims it's too little too late, as Annalise Nielsen found out.
It was like I was caught in this bubble where I was caught in time. Nothing was being resolved.
We have got, as I've said many times before, the worst courts in the country by a country mile.
I think it's been sort of lurching from crisis to crisis for some period of time. I think the people of South Australia know that.
Each year, 1 in 2 people will face some kind of legal issue.
You spend so much energy and focus building yourself up because that may be the day that everything gets resolved.
And for South Australians, the path to justice continues to get more and more difficult.
Justice has been a long process.
Just disappointment, just like, here we go again, you know, how long is this going to go for?
You need to know that you're going into a really gruelling process and you need to be really strong to survive it.
In 2008, Mon McGill suffered a horrific, violent attack.
I was beaten for hours and I was held inside a room against my will, which I eventually escaped from and was able to call an ambulance and police.
But when she looked to the courts for justice, she had no idea it would be a 5-year legal battle.
How many times do you think you've been to court?
In that whole I can't even count. Yeah, I can't even count. Because there were some days that would be set and then I would find maybe a few days beforehand that we weren't actually going to court that day and it had been adjourned without me knowing.
The uncertainty's taken a toll on her mental health.
I suffered depression a lot because of it, because I'd get really wound up emotionally. I'd get really anxious and then I'd be told that it would just be happening again in another 6 weeks.
And the constant back and forth even started to compromise her case.
There was a few witnesses that were making comments, like the evidence, oh, I've got better things to do than this. So then I suddenly had people who were my witnesses who were angry with me because of the adjournments.
Mon's not alone. According to the latest report from the Productivity Commission, last year 19% of criminal cases at the district court level still remained unresolved after 12 months, compared to just 7% in WA. At the Magistrates Court level, 25% of criminal cases were still active after 6 months, compared to New South Wales, 11%. And the situation's far worse in the civil system. In fact, the delays are amongst the worst in the country.
Just trying to resolve the matter and then trying to run a business at the same time. It's been pretty bad over the last 2 years.
Keith Garnett put a deposit down for a trailer he didn't receive, but trying to get his money back through the courts has been a nightmare.
Hundreds and hundreds of hours probably, just to try and get back what was originally $1,000 deposit and then ended up costing me probably another $1,000 plus that I had to pay out to get this person into the courts.
The trial put a strain on his automotive business.
We should be able to say, well, we've already had lodgements with the court, pick the phone up and make some sort of lodgement over the phone rather than having to appear at the court.
In the end, he was worse off than if he'd done nothing.
How much do you think all this court going back and forth has cost you?
Probably in excess of $3,000.
So 3 times as much as the money lost in the first place?
Absolutely, yeah. And I got the person made one tiny small payment of $40. So we're severely out of pocket, just trying to get some justice.
That is not a critique of our magistrates, all of whom work very hard and have enormous workloads. It is a criticism of the way in which we resource our courts.
Our courts have more work than ever before, more laws to enforce, increased jurisdiction and fewer judges to handle it. Morry Bailes is managing director of one of the state's largest law firms, Tyndall Gask Bentley.
The current courts might be described as stuck somewhere between the 19th and the 20th century.
And what promises have been made were broken, with a hold on plans for a new $500 million court precinct.
The first thing is that we need to think about it as not just bricks and mortar, because what would have come with a new courts building is new information technology.
Because even in 2015, our courts haven't caught on to the computer age.
Hi there, can you tell me what you're up to?
Just down at court again, filing an affidavit.
Do you do this very often?
Yeah, about twice a day.
Lawyers still physically have to walk documents into the court because they can't submit them online.
Is there any benefit to having this hard copy system?
None at all. It's purely a question of the fact that we can't afford, or the government says we can't afford, current information technology systems.
So while the government ploughs millions into saving 3 minutes commute time by undergrounding the Oban, many say its priorities are way off. The problem's not just with staff numbers and antiquated processes. Behind this grand facade, the walls are crumbling. To show you just how run down our Supreme Court is, we've been given special access to show you the worst of it. And what we found was damp rotting the walls in courtrooms from a bygone era. There's makeshift electrical wiring and rooms peeling with paint. A single outdoor toilet for the entire old Supreme Court building. But most astonishingly, this safety feature, thought to be an urban myth, actually exists. A foam crash barrier known as the mattress, there to break the fall of judges who keep tripping on the ancient staircase leading from their chambers.
If you told people to go about their business in other industries in this way, there'd be shock and horror, I think.
And if you did have an accident, good luck getting back to work, as a former Chief Justice discovered in 2011.
The former Chief Justice Doyle was unfortunately injured when he was on holiday in Europe, and he was wheelchair bound for a period of time.
But the wheels of justice stopped turning as his chair couldn't get up the stairs.
Now, if that happened in any other place or any other industry, there would be dismay. He's a very stoic man and soldiered on, but really that is outrageous.
When you compare our courts to other capital cities like Brisbane's new $570 million court complex opened in 2012, our courts look like a relic. Even just across Victoria Square here in Adelaide, the sleek, modern federal court building puts us to shame.
And we are undoubtedly the backwater of the country.
With the delays mounting, the Department of Public Prosecutions is coming under fire for taking on cases they have no reasonable chance of winning.
The Police Association has slammed the decision by the Department of Public Prosecutions to take on the case.
I think it's fair to say that not every decision to proceed is a correct one.
To help clear the logjam, Law Society President Rocco Perotta wants an independent tribunal to review prosecutors' decisions.
Prosecuting is really difficult, and the DPP and police prosecution do a great job, but some of these decisions from the feedback I get are not correct.
I think there are definitely cases which go forward which shouldn't.
While David Edwardson, one of South Australia's top criminal defence QCs, agrees with the sentiment, but also blames under-resourcing.
What that means is that prosecutors aren't allocated until they know for certain that a judge is actually going to hear a case. So that might happen only a matter of days before the trial's due to start. And the consequence of that is that there is no proper negotiation or discussions, and so often last-minute decisions are made.
Attorney General John Rao declined to be interviewed by Today Tonight for this story, but said in a statement,
I have made it clear publicly many times that in the medium and longer term, investment in court infrastructure is unavoidable and necessary.
He's launched his Transforming Criminal Justice report to address what he calls cultural issues. But for those marooned by the system, they want to see action now.
I think it's a point of shame that it's a problem.
I think it's a disaster for South Australia, at least certainly in terms of dispensing justice in this state.
I don't understand the need for such lengthy delays and to keep people in that cycle.
Annalise Nielsen there.